Hi Sheddies, it's me, Eddie Stevens. I'm back out here in the bosque. If you don't know, the bosque is the forest that grows by the river here in New Mexico. I have been running on a trail in this bosque for a good 15 years now. Not non-stop, obviously. Although I sound like I have been. Fucking hell. So the All Blacks are coming to Twickenham, or whatever the fuck they're calling it nowadays, and it's happening this weekend. Big game, big match, that's what everyone's talking about. So I could talk about that, but you know what would be better? You know what people really want to hear? They want to hear my top 10 fullbacks playing in the Premiership. Top 10 English qualified fullbacks playing in the Premiership. The top 10 English fullback options. So you may have noticed whenever I do these videos, I'm always at this angle. In fact, any photo you see of me pretty much is from this angle. That's because my nose is so hideously bent and large. One of my friends once told me, he said, "Eddie, I think you look like a work of art." Unfortunately, it's a Picasso. And I know what he means, or Picasso. Because look, this angle is the best one, that's why I show that. But if I turn my head, look how huge my nose looks. Like, oh my God, hideous. We won't be doing that again. So without further ado, here's my top 10 English fullback options. Here we go. So just some quick rules of my top 10 lists. If you haven't seen my last and first top 10 list, it was top 10 fullbacks. And I explained in that video, and you can watch it if you want, but if you can't be bothered because you're so lazy, I explained that I do things a little bit differently to most people's top 10s or rankings, where I start at number 1. I don't build up to number 1. I think it's far more exciting to say my number 1 because we usually agreed on it, you know, or at least it's not too controversial. It's when we get to 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th that people start to get really pissed off. By the time I get to 10th, you want to kill me. You can't believe I've selected myself. But that's more exciting to me. So we start at number 1, okay? The other thing I like to mention is that what I'm doing when I pick this, it's not so much who's in the shirt now, who deserves the shirt now, who should be on the bench, and then exciting prospects. What I do is I imagine if the players I've already picked are unavailable, who would I bring in next? So once we get to like 4th or 5th, sometimes it's not about who's the most exciting, who I've seen that I think should be developed. It's got nothing to do with development. It's if there were a test match today and the players I already mentioned were all somehow unavailable, who would I bring in? So then it becomes, sometimes there'll be quite an exciting or boring selection, because it might be someone who hasn't played for England in years, in their 30s, who has a ton of experience and is just a better option than some fucking 18-year-old in the bloody Leicester Academy or something. Do you know what I'm saying? Number 1 is easy for me and easy for most people now. And it's George Fullback. He is the starting fullback for England. Played really well for England and for Saints this season, looking great. He's actually, if you listen to my podcast, Rugby Rant Banter, you'll know that he's probably my favourite player in the Premiership. I love him, love the way he plays. He plays fullback in a style that I think suits the way that England, well, blatantly suits the way England want to play now under Steve Borthwick, and it's the way that I want them to play. And just a great player, isn't he? Clear choice at number 1. Then number 2, generally it's gotten tricky because for a while there, do you remember when Freddie Stewart was hands down easily England's best fullback? Everyone seems to have sort of completely changed their perspective on Freddie Stewart. He's gone from being this rugby god a few seasons ago to being someone too slow to play international rugby. I don't agree with that. I think he's great, but he's not my number 2. My number 2 is Joe Carpenter from Sale. I spit in every video. I don't know what's... It's because I ran. I'm coughing up stuff. Joe Carpenter, almost a perfect amalgamation to me of... I see some people over there. I've got to get away in case I get into some kind of fight to the death. Perfect sort of combination of George Furbank and Freddie Stewart. Now, physically, nothing like Freddie Stewart. He's a very similar size to George Furbank, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's shorter. But he is just as good as Freddie Stewart under the high ball, which is amazing. And I just think he's a bit more balanced all around than Stewart, a bit more explosive, a bit more... He just offers more of an attacking threat, and has a lot more potential, I think, to get better. At number 3, I have Freddie Stewart, and I love Freddie Stewart, by the way. I wouldn't mind Freddie Stewart starting for England next week. Like, I don't think he's become this bad player overnight. I don't think he's too slow. I was just recently watching some highlights of him, and what he offers is something different. You know, he is a very safe player. Against certain teams, he could be first choice. There's certain teams where you need to change the way that England play a little bit, perhaps. You might want him ahead of George Furbank or Joe Carpenter for now, you know? And his physical presence is unmatched. Running people over, putting in big hits. When Saints played against Leicester recently, he actually had a better game than George Furbank, but I think that had more to do with... I mean, it's just one of those things, isn't it? He was fired up for it. No doubt sees George Furbank as the man who took his shirt from him. So he's very motivated, and I think probably playing in a slightly better team on the day. But that's the top 3. Now, who's number 4? I'm not sure. Let me think for a second. Number 4 is going to irritate you and piss you off, because I know what you're thinking, all right? You're a Bath fan, aren't you? You might not be, but you're thinking, surely he's going to say, insert your favourite fullback that plays for your team. The name I'm going to select, I'm actually shocked I'm saying it myself, but this just comes from slowly over the last couple of seasons watching this player and recognising how consistent he is and how underrated he is. I don't think anyone would pick this player at 4th other than me, or maybe some Bristol fans, because it's what's this fuck? I can't remember his name. That's how unpopular he is. Rich Lane. Nobody talks about him. Nobody talks about him as an England option, and yet every time he plays, he's excellent. Excellent in attack, excellent in defence, and that's why he's my number 4. Shut up. Now at number 5, I'm probably going to piss you off again, or at least some of you, because the obvious thing to do would be to select, you know, a young, exciting fullback with a lot of potential. But remember my rules. So we're imagining all the 4 I've already mentioned are dead. They actually died in a horrific orgy accident. I say accident, they knew the risks. They shouldn't have been doing that. Now they're all dead, and it's humiliating and embarrassing. Let's not talk about it. So at 5th choice, if all those players are gone, they've passed away from anal bleeding, my number 5 is Elliot Daly. I mean, he's going to probably pop up in every backline position. He was already in somewhere around about 5th in my wing options. May have been 4th actually, because Elliot Daly, quality player. He could be picked at fullback or on the wing on any given week for England, and no one would be too shocked. So it's kind of a no-brainer. Slot him in there, and good on him. Good for him for resisting the urge to join up with those other disgusting, awful players that died in that gross way. And there are children involved. 6th place, probably should have been 5th to be honest with you, maybe even higher, but he's injured right now, and haven't seen enough of him recently. Also named somewhere in my top 10 wingers. A guy I described in the past as a rugby genius, and he is Max Malins. Love Max Malins. Again, if he can get us a decent run of games together without being injured, and play well, he could force his way back into the England team, either on the wing or at fullback. Probably fullback more easily lately, because we've got some phenomenal wing options that I wouldn't want to pick him ahead of. 7th place, a guy with a lot of talent, a lot of potential. I know a lot of Bath fans really like this guy. For me, he just seems a little bit flaky, all right? Now, you could argue, if you are a Bath fan, you could say that I haven't seen enough of him, I haven't given him enough attention, you know, but I could possibly argue that maybe you've seen too much of him. You're looking up too close, and you're biased and stupid, and fuck you, right? But yeah, it's Tom de Glanville. Definitely got potential. Definitely wouldn't surprise me if 2 or 3 years from now he's in an England squad, but I do need to see more from him. I do need to see more before I give Borthwick the go-ahead to select him. 8th place now, getting a bit tricky. This is a guy that I don't have a lot of faith in, but, you know, I've already brought in Daly and Malins for the experience. There's not a lot of, oh, do you know what? No, I've changed my mind. Speaking of experience, a player who's never going to play for England ever again, but if you watch him playing for his team week in, week out, season after season, you know he's still, some people would say, the best fullback in the league. I don't know if I would say that, but the fact that he's even in the discussion means he should be somewhere on this list. And going by my rules, the other 7, they're all dead, right? The first few were dead in that horrible orgy thing. The others died trying to save the children, and they got caught in the crossfires. This is disgusting. Forget that weird analogy. In 8th place, I go with Alex Good. I mean, wouldn't you love to see him in an England shirt? Won't happen, and it shouldn't happen. And we'll move on. We're at 9th place, and we're kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel now, aren't we? I know I'm forgetting people, so go ahead. Last week when I did wingers, somebody in the comments pointed out I hadn't mentioned Will Muir, and I probably should have. And there's going to be something similar this week, okay? But in 9th place, I'm picking Josh Hodge, a player who a lot of people think should be in the England squad now, and a lot of people think should never, ever be in an England squad. I'm very torn, because what he does well, he does really well. He's lightning fast, and he's great. His goal kicking is phenomenal. Got a big old boot on him, and he has lovely hair. But I've seen some defensive frailties in him that make me very unconfident that he can step up to international level. But, you know, 9th choice, sort of fair enough. Let's put him in there. And then 10th, who comes in at 10? It's almost an insult to whoever this is, but not really. There's 10 clubs playing in the Premiership. You've got to be ranked somewhere in there, and not all of those first choice fullbacks are even English, so it's not that. There's no shame in being... Don't get upset if you're a professional rugby player and I haven't mentioned you, or I named you in 10th place. Don't come at me. You know, I have very little influence on England selections, so, you know, if anything, raise your game. Try and impress me. But at 10th place, who would it be? I had it, it's gone. I remember now, one of my favourite players in the league, and definitely going to be an England player one day, barring injury. Hopefully I haven't given him my shittest touch by saying that. But Hendy at Saints barely can make it, well, doesn't really make it even into their first choice back 3, but that's because the Northampton Saints back 3 is fucking amazing. You've got Tommy Freeman, who is one of the 2 first choice England wingers on one wing. You got Ollie Slightholme, who is lethal, and he's in my England, somewhere I ranked him in my top 10 wingers. And then you've got George Furbank, the captain, at fullback. And then you've got Ram and somebody else as an option, I think. Either way, very hard to get into that Saints back 3, and yet he didn't he basically win them the Premiership coming on for Saints and on the wing, I think. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Great player, a big, physical, skillful, fast, pacey, rangy, galloping, horse-like player. Yeah, so that's my top 10. Okay, thanks for watching. Now I get to go and treat myself because today is cheat day for Eddie boy. I work out regularly. I think that's fucking obvious. And I try to eat well. I'm really trying to have perfect nutrition, but it's very difficult being hungry all the time. I'm trying to lose some fat. So it was my ex-girlfriend's idea, actually, that I do one cheat day a week just to calm me down, you know. And if you don't know how the cheat day works, it's very simple. 6 days out of the week, I stick to my shitty, boring diet, but then once a week on cheat day, I get to fuck anyone I like. Now, I'm actually single now, so I always get to fuck whoever I like, but I still think of it as cheating, and because it's more fun. Do you know what I mean? By the way, you can eat as much pussy as you like on any diet. It doesn't matter what you're on. There are 0 calories in pussy, usually, typically, depending on yeast content. Do you know what I mean? Hey, people get grossed out by that, but it's like, if you want to take this fitness thing seriously, every calorie or fraction of a calorie counts. You've got to count the yeast. Now, you may think that sounds similar to a Jimmy Carr joke that he told recently. I've been doing that bit for years before he did it, and you'll notice it's better than his version as well. So fuck off.